Now, last night, CNN and YouTube made history by allowing the internet generation to grill presidential hopefuls via the internets. Now, the first of the CNN YouTube debates featured Democratic nominees answering questions from voters with a webcam. Now, members of YouTube submitted almost 3,000 potential questions for the candidates, with only 25 that made it to the big stage. However, YouTubers were enraged to find out that CNN was actually picking and choosing the questions that would be addressed, rather than airing the most popular questions from the site. So is CNN attempting to modernize the democratic process, or is this just Capitol Hill trying to look hip and with it? You can go ahead and read my lips if you want. It's The Loop. My guest